Hello and welcome back to the Dugout podcast. This is episode number 37, I think.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah,
episode
that's
number
right.
37. I'm your host, Alexander Cruikshanks. This week I'm just joined by Ethan Barlow. Last week we had our first guest on, Michael McEwen, and it was a good one. You guys, showed your support. I'm glad you enjoyed it. First, biggest views in a wee while, so it was good. We enjoyed it, and it was good to have Michael on. And we'll be trying to get more guests in the future, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It was refreshing to have someone that isn't us two or Laurie on, as we've not really had anyone on. I think we've had sort of interviews before with other people, but no one properly live in the flesh on the pod. So that was refreshing. But it's back to just the two of us today. But we've got a lot of stuff to go through, a lot of sort of interesting stuff as well. So it should be good.
Yeah, we'll just jump in. Last week we previewed it. This week we'll talk about it. Celtic versus Bayern Munich. I think we should just wrap in talking about the second leg into this. Not do our usual wait after because I think that would be a bit weird. But yeah, so Celtic hosted Bayern Munich at Parkhead and they lost 2-1. Not the 4-0 drubbing that I thought it would be. Ethan, what did you go for? One each or 2-1 Celtic? Or
No, I backed Celtic to win. My heart backed Celtic to win. My head backed Bayern to win 3-1. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by how Celtic played and the result and performance in general.
yeah. So your heart and your head were both idiots. Um,
I wouldn't say idiots. They were both closer than your 4 now. So I mean,
okay.
whatever you would call yourself in that scenario.
Uh, yeah. I'd probably call myself an idiot, but here we go. Celtic, defended really well. The first half was a lot of Bayern Munich pressure. Watching it as a neutral, um, it wasn't a great game, I'd say. Bayern had a lot of the ball. They didn't really do much with it. When Celtic did get the ball, their counter attacks weren't great. Obviously, Nicholas Kuhn scored in the first 20 seconds or something, but it was ruled out for offside pretty fairly, I'd say. Um, yeah, and Manuel Neuer can't dive until Adam Ida's out the way. Do you have any disagreements with that, Ethan?
No, I seen that. I seen a few Celtic fans trying to argue Celtic's case, but yeah, I think when you see it back, obviously it's a tough one to take. 26 seconds, I think it was. Yeah, but you think with the way Kuhn's put the ball, you think kind of at the time being at the game, I think how as that went in, you would expect Neuer to save that, but obviously he can't dive because he's maybe expecting he to get a touch, and he does in an offside position, and Neuer puts his hand up right away. So yeah, that's a fair decision, a harsh one, but one Celtic have to take, and maybe it could have changed the complete flow of the game. But as you said, in that first half for 44 minutes, it was all Bayern Munich without really peppering Kasper Schmeichel's goal. I think he made a few
Mm.
decent saves. There was one especially um, where Harry Kane, I think it was Sané, had crossed it from the left hand side, and Harry Kane had headed it from about 6 yards out, and Schmeichel had saved it. But I think Harry Kane was offside anyway.
He was
And
offside,
then
but it was still a really good save with his feet there.
yeah,
When Harry Kane rises up and gets onto it from that far out, you expect the net to bulge. So
yeah,
it was a really good save from Kasper Schmeichel. But yeah, Ethan, like you said, Bayern Munich really didn't, do a lot in terms of an attacking sense. The gut punch before halftime, a really good ball over the top, a poor original touch from Elise. He gets lucky, and Greg Taylor gets quite unlucky because he does block it, but it just bounces off his thigh. Comes back to Michael Elise, who kind of glides past him because Taylor's already on his way and absolutely rockets it into that top corner. That's the quality we were talking about.
yeah. That's it. I think you give their wingers a sort of one-on-one opportunity, which they didn't have much in that first half, if at all. They're gonna take advantage of it on most occasions. As you said, it's a little bit of fortune that it kind of bounces the way it does, but Michael Olise makes sort of no mistake with the finish. It's an absolute rocket, and Schmeichel doesn't have any chance with it, even though he's near post. Yeah, I think that's the quality we're kind of talking about at this level. Celtic haven't played up against a team of this sort of size, and that's what can happen. You sort of switch off for one moment, and they'll punish you, and they did.
Yeah,
'Cause as you said, I thought Celtic were, although Bayern had a lot of the ball, when they had a lot of the ball in the edge of Celtic's box, I thought Celtic were quite comfortable in their shape, and defended pretty well.
yeah. I think we spoke about Greg Taylor there getting unlucky for the rest of the game. I thought he was quite poor. Gave away the ball a lot, passed out of play quite a lot. He looked like he was struggling. I think Maeda was getting a bit frustrated with him because there was a couple of opportunities for him to break away down that side. Maeda obviously getting the goal, but I thought overall he was decent. Causing issues, tracking back, pressing, his bread and butter kind of thing. Before he's added kind of his finishing touch this season. But yeah, Celtic, like I said, weren't great on the counter attack. They didn't take the chances when they were presented to them. I thought Arne Engels had quite a poor game. Actually, he had been decent recently, but he looked like he struggled. Dilly dallying on the ball. For me, I think he was one of the worst performers in that Celtic team. I don't know if in your think
Disagree.
you disagree.
I would disagree. I think I've seen a lot of sort of split opinion, a bit like Arne Engels' whole time at Celtic. But I thought actually in the game and as the game went on, I thought he was solid. He did give the ball away a few times. There was one flick he tried in the second half that just never came off, and you're like, that's not really the time to be doing that. But I thought he contested well, especially in the first half when Celtic didn't have the ball. He was sort of putting players under pressure. He was often tasked with dealing with Jamal Musiala, who didn't really get into the game at all.
I,
And I
I
thought,
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with he did his job in sort of keeping the shape and pressing but obviously it's really difficult because it's Bayern Munich. But what you want him to do, a player like him to do, is to unlock it all for you. And I don't think he did that. And he had chances where I thought he just really took too long on the ball.
yeah. I think the first half especially, you could make that case for probably all the Celtic players. Defensively solid, but going forward not good enough. And that was the sort of change that happened. We'll obviously get onto it, but about the hour mark is when it kind of maybe the switch flipped, and Celtic kind of kicked into gear and sort of made it a two team game. Because before that, it was very one sided in Bayern Munich's way.
Yeah, definitely. So second half, Bayern Munich doubled their lead early. Harry Kane getting the goal, a nice finish from the corner, peels off his man, and he puts it away for 2-0. And you think at that point, the game's dead and buried. However, you alluded to it, Celtic start to get back into it. They get a goal back, and it starts to really look like, oh, could they pull this back here? Could they take a 2 each draw over to Munich? They had some opportunities, and yeah, I think they kind of showed that they can hang with the big boys. It's just a shame it took them that long to get into the game like that. I don't know if it was a combination of Bayern Munich going, oh, we're 2-0 up, or Celtic going, oh crap, we really need to get ourselves into gear, or it was tiredness. I don't know. But if you're going by simple football logic, if they were able to do that then from minute one they should. Well, they kind of were, but maybe that took the wind out their sails, that disallowed goal, maybe. But yeah,
Yeah.
because they did have chances to hurt Bayern Munich, and especially in the second half, and you could see quality coming through. Jota was good when he came on. Schlupp making an appearance, playing quite well. I've seen a lot of people calling for him to actually get the start. Coming up on tomorrow as we're recording Tuesday. And for a player like Schlupp as well, I don't think that would be a bad idea because he's used to playing under pressure in teams that don't have a lot of the ball, and he's played at the Premier League level for as long as I can remember. to a decent level as well. It's only the last couple of years he's started to maybe fall out of the Palace side a little bit, and they've loaned him out now. But I've always liked Jeffrey Schlupp. I think he's a really good. He's really versatile. He's good going forward. He's decent on the ball, and I can definitely see the argument for him playing in this return leg. Just one thing, Ethan, you brought it up before we came on. We were sort of debating whether an atmosphere can affect big teams, and we thought that Bayern Munich would, just kind of, it's like water off a duck's back because they're the best, they're the elite. They did win, but I think it did get to them a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think atmosphere, we talk about 12th man and whatever, I think it only goes so far. But for Celtic players, it's that boost that you need to know that you've got 60,000 fans sort of jeering you to press on and to push that Bayern Munich defence. And that's why Celtic got momentum in the game because they're winning throw-ins, corners, and the place is going mental even when they're 2-0 down. But Bayern Munich start the game, apart from that goal, which was maybe Celtic didn't have a shot in the first half, so it was Celtic's sort of only attack that couldn't go. Bayern Munich settle down, they keep the ball, and although they're not doing much with it, and a sort of threatening the goal sense, that they're quieting down the crowd, settling into the game. Then they get the goal, they get the second goal. I think the first goal was a sort of deflator, as you said, right before halftime. You think you've defended really well for that first half, and they score right before halftime. One of the worst times to concede a goal. In the second half, Celtic just didn't start with that same intensity in the first sort of 5 minutes of the second half. And the Bayern score that goal, which is a really sort of cheap goal at this stage in this competition. Harry Kane's kind of nowhere, no one's anywhere near him, and the penalty box from a corner. I think it's Alistair Johnston who marked him quite well from the corners in the first half. But Harry Kane's unmarked, and he can even volley the ball into the net. He doesn't even need to header it in. So yeah, that was quite poor. But Celtic picked themselves up. You've got to give them credit because me and I imagine most people probably thought that it maybe would have went to 3-4 after it went to 2, and the sort of atmosphere goes down, the heads maybe go down. But Celtic kept fighting. And yeah, I think Celtic deserve to get back into the game, and maybe on another day fine margins in the game, maybe go Celtic's way, and maybe they nick an equaliser, or dare I say even win the game. I think the penalty decision, I don't think it's a penalty for Upamecano's challenge on Arne Engels, but I think it very easily could have been given as a penalty. I think Upamecano gets first contact on the ball, which you can clearly see, and then as his foot is landing on Engels gets another touch on the ball. So, but what is Upamecano meant to do? So I think they maybe got that decision right. But it was an interesting one in the stadium because the referee never made a decision at the time because it was given as offside. So he went to his monitor without having made a decision, which is maybe why it took him so long. But yeah, Celtic fought back into the game brilliantly after that, especially. Maeda gets the goal. It's not the prettiest goal, but Celtic are alive. And after that, you think Celtic are maybe going to kick on and get that equaliser, which maybe they would have deserved. But Bayern did have control of the game for most of it. But it wouldn't be unfair to say Bayern were holding on by the end. And it was strange because you think Bayern have the ball for all of the first half. You think Celtic maybe tired, not going to have that energy to sort of push on in the sort of later stages, but they did. They looked a sort of fitter team by the end of it, which was strange. But yeah, to go on your point of, I think you made about Bayern Munich maybe sitting in, I think that's definitely a sort of fair point to make. You go 2-0 up away at Celtic, a team that obviously can score goals. Bayern not the most sort of stable defensively. I think you can maybe make the case that they maybe sat off Celtic a little bit, invited Celtic into the game. But one thing for sure, Bayern Munich know they will not be able to do that at the Allianz with a one-goal lead because Celtic ultimately punished them for doing it at Celtic Park. If they in fact did do that, it was probably a bit of a combination of both. It's probably natural that you are going to sit off when you've got a 2-goal lead away in the Champions League.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just talk about that second leg now, Ethan. Obviously, 2-1 isn't a disaster, but with a team like Bayern Munich, can you see Celtic progressing?
Um,
Go your
to be
head.
honest, no, I can't see Celtic progressing. I think you've got to be sort of. I said in the pre-match, the preview last week, that Celtic needed to win this match to stand any chance. I think if Celtic play at their best for 90 minutes, they maybe have a chance, but they didn't. Ultimately, they played for their best for half an hour in an attacking sense, and that's not going to be good enough. They're going to have to play as good as they did for that last half an hour for the whole of the 90 minutes.
While
Maybe,
keeping Bayern Munich out.
yeah, while keeping Bayern Munich out at the other end. And that's going to be a monumental task. Bayern Munich, maybe you could argue going through a little bit of a cold spot at the moment against Celtic. I think I've been wrong in the past, but I believe they had the least possession they've had in any game this season, and they also had created the least expected goals they have any game in this season. And then against Bayer Leverkusen at the weekend, Bayer Leverkusen 8 points behind Bayern in the league. So that's kind of a title decider, you could call it maybe. Although Bayern do have a buffer. Bayern suffered even less possession and even less expected goals. So maybe going through one of their sort of damper spots of the season, which may give Celtic slight encouragement, but this is still Bayern Munich and this is still Celtic. So yeah, and I think if I was being going in my head, as you said, I would probably lean towards another 2-1 win for Bayern Munich. I think Celtic will still compete, and I hope they do, because it would be a shame for this sort of good season in the Champions League to kind of been ruined by a sort of tarnished by a sort of thrashing in Munich. Can very easily happen though. We've seen Bayern score 9 this season in the Champions League. But yeah, I think just to go into your sort of lineup sort of conundrums, I think Greg Taylor, just to speak on his performance, I think he was the sort of one player from Wednesday that looked, maybe you could argue, a wee bit out of place, and sort of possibly out of his depth at that level. You'll probably know that I've been a Greg Taylor supporter on this channel, and I think some of the criticism's been unfair. But I think he was pretty poor the other night. I think he played the ball out at like 4 or 5 times, which at this level isn't good enough. And there was one time right before he got subbed off where Celtic broke the press and he had a chance to break down the line, and he just didn't have the sort of pace to break away from Bayern Munich, and he had to cut back. And I think that's maybe why Jeffrey Schlupp will come in. But I think Greg Taylor will still start. Rodgers will go, he's trusted. But yeah, it's definitely a fair point to make.
Okay. Are we going to go with predictions now?
Yeah, I've kind of given mine already. I said 2-1.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna go with the repeat of my prediction last week. I'm gonna go with 4-0 to Bayern Munich.
Fair
I
enough.
just
Fair
think
enough.
I just think it's different. This like obviously, I think I was being a bit jokey last week. I did think Bayern Munich would win, but this week I think it's different at the Allianz. I think they've got a really good record at home in the Champions League, so I think they'll make it 4-0.
They've
But
got a good
anyway,
record at home in general. Only one defeat this season, and they played with 10 men for 80 minutes. So
aye,
yeah.
yeah. So moving on to the real football, we'll just talk about Celtic again. Celtic 3, Dundee United 0. Really, just a good win for Celtic, and kind of again business as usual. Jota getting on the score sheet again. No tears this time, I don't think, but obviously he was very happy and he seems to be back in his comfort zone, playing well.
Yeah, definitely. It was a good goal from Jota, and I didn't even expect him to kind of fit in as well as he has done. I thought there might be a sort of period where he's a little bit off. He's fully sharp, but he looks pretty sharp. He looks like he could easily start the game on tomorrow, Tuesday, as we're recording this. I thought he was good, as you mentioned, when he came on. Come on last week against Bayern Munich, and he was good again at the weekend against Dundee United. He scores a really nice goal, sort of cuts in, classic Jota into the far post, and he does a big celebration. It's his first goal back at Celtic Park, but as you said, no tears this time. But yeah, for Celtic, as you said, business as usual. Dundee United have been a good team and been one of the sort of strongest opponents against Celtic this season. Caused them a bit of problems in the last meeting at Celtic Park. Obviously got that stalemate draw at Tannadice, but Celtic had a bit too much for them this time, even while rotating the squad a bit, which you would expect for Celtic, especially when Dundee United are going through a bit of a tough spell at the moment. 4 losses on the bounce, just 1 win in the last 7 games. So it's a bit of a difficult spell for Jim Goodwin. And they're punished by that, dropping into 4th place, crazily enough, even though Aberdeen, well, we'll get on to Aberdeen, but you know the story of Aberdeen.
Yeah, definitely. Callum McGregor scoring again. Another assist for Yang, who, he's starting to grow into it.
Yeah.
Start,
I
start,
think I think this one, an assist is a bit kind. It's down as an assist, but it is a bit kind to Yang because I think Callum McGregor does most of the work.
yeah, an assist and
Yeah,
assist.
yeah, it's on the stats. Yeah, that's the third game running that Yang's been involved in a goal because he got accredited with assist against Bayern Munich for Maeda's goal. But for Callum McGregor, it was a really well taken goal to open the scoring. And that's his 8th for the season. His first one that's been in the box. Seems
That's
enough. And he's cracked 10 goals in 2 seasons at Celtic, back in 2017-18 and 2019-20, and he looks like he's going to do that again this season, unless he doesn't score 2 goals. But you would imagine he's going to get 2 goals.
no. The
Um,
other time he's cracked 10 goals was at Notts County.
Oft alongside Jack Grealish.
Yeah, he got 14 that season.
Oft. Yeah,
So
well, I think he did start his career as like a left midfielder, attacking midfielder, but he's just he's progressed backwards.
no assists in that season at Notts County.
Right, we just didn't pass, just cannoned them from outside the
Well,
box.
he's only got 1 assist this season, so he's a goal scorer now. And obviously, another man who's kind of had a kind of revival, along with, well, I wouldn't say Yang is a revival. I'd say it's him actually coming alive for the first time. But Adam Ida on his revival, getting the 3rd goal, and what's that? He scored apart from Bayern Munich. He's scored in his last 3 or 4, I think.
Five and
Five,
6.
5 and 6.
He stepped up since Kyogo's left, as has Daisen Maeda. Oh, I forgot to mention actually for Daisen Maeda's goal against Bayern Munich, he became the Celtic single season Champions League record goal scorer with 4 goals, which is a bit of an impressive stat. Obviously, more games this season, which obviously would help him. But yeah, Adam Ida's stepped up to the plate and, well, a brilliant goal, and we were treated to a few brilliant goals in the Premiership this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. So Celtic took that opportunity. They went 16 points clear until Rangers played on the Sunday. So yeah, it's just kind of the way it's always been going. Now
Yeah,
on to a big game. 2 teams in a bit of a slump. One was significantly worse than the other, but they finally did it. Aberdeen going to Dens. They won 2-1. First time in what, like 15 Premiership games? 14?
yeah,
Uh,
15.
15. So they've done it. Aberdeen winning 2-1 against Dundee. Nisbet and Keskinen with the goals. Palmer Holden scored immediately after. Um, to bring it back to 2-1, but Aberdeen managed to get the win over the line. And yeah, maybe this is just what they need to kick on and get that 3rd place spot that they're somehow still in.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. How you can go 14 league games, sorry, without a win. And most of them were defeats, not even draws. and then you win one game and you're back up to third. I know Dundee United have had their recent struggles, as we mentioned, but surely you would expect some team to sort of push up. But credit Aberdeen. They were the better team on the day against Dundee, who are also struggling. No wins in their last 5 league matches as they're into second bottom of the tightly contested sort of race to avoid that playoff relegation spot. But yeah, Aberdeen, Nisbet getting a goal was always good. We spoke last week about his confidence being low, although he did get that goal against Dunfermline. And then Keskinen were an absolute screamer. That's what they paid the big bucks for. Obviously, he was the sort of man they signed for close to a record fee. It wasn't a record fee with the Miovski money. But yeah, a brilliant win for Aberdeen, and they'll be hoping they can kick on now.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, what was I going to say? Yeah, Dundee look like they are in a bit of trouble. It feels weird because it feels like they shouldn't be where they are. They're 6 points ahead of St Johnstone, who we'll talk about, but after their wee win and run, they fell victim to Kilmarnock. Laurie gave us his thoughts on the game, so we'll just relay those. But yeah, really, really good win for Aberdeen, and after their terrific, fantastic start, they dropped off an like a not a cliff. I don't know, the Grand Canyon, I'd say. And it looks like they're climbing their way out of it. So hopefully for Aberdeen fans, this is the start of something. Um, just quickly, how bad is our division that a team can stay there for like?
Is that how bad our division is, or is that how competitive our division is?
All
Out
right,
with
we'll spin it. We'll do the journalist thing.
no,
It's
I think that shows that the league's a sort of competitive.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
it can
level
also
playing
be
field.
bad and competitive.
No, it's got St Johnstone, the other 8 teams, Rangers, Celtic, and that's a good place for the league to be in. I think.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe well, I think talking about league formats and how many teams should be in the league and whatever is a conversation for another day. Maybe we'll
I
wait
think
for
we
the
should have a
summer for
16
that.
team league.
Possibly, but whether the SFA are going to sort of try and do that is another question.
Yeah. They're actually shortening the SWPL as well, aren't they? So to
Yeah,
then but to make that more competitive. Because
yeah,
Dundee United currently sit bottom with a negative 103 goal difference, which
yeah,
is really, really bad. They've only played
yeah.
21 games as well.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I think there is a bit of disparity in that league, but less disparity in that league this season with Hibs sort of making a title charge, the top four, all on the same point. So if we're going to start watching the SWPL, I think that this season would be the season.
Definitely. But yeah, moving on to Kilmarnock versus St Johnstone. Kilmarnock 3, St Johnstone 1. Graham Carey could have got the late goal, but the goals came from Liam Polworth, the new Twitter meme, Fraser Murray, and Bobby Wales, who, yeah, FotMob have had him scoring twice in the same minute. We'll talk about a wee FotMob mishap later as well. That was quite funny. But yeah, Laurie's kind of thoughts on the game. St Johnstone were just toothless. Kelly picked them apart, and they didn't really offer anything. He said he knows they got the late goal, but that was just kind of like a consolation basically. And Kilmarnock really did play well, and I'd agree. I think Kilmarnock did play well. St Johnson offering very little. Like, yeah, I'm just regurgitating his thoughts here, but I feel like he hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, definitely. A massive win for Kelly. And they have been really good at home this season for the most part. I know they obviously lost to St Johnstone earlier in the season, which I think we keep reminding Laurie about. But yeah, this was a big game. It felt like a sort of 6 pointer, even though the teams are now 5 places apart from each other in the league. It didn't feel like that. Well, it wasn't like that at the time. I think Kelly would have been in 10th probably. Um, but yeah, a massive win for Kelly, and they just had too much quality for St Johnstone, and I thought St Johnstone would maybe make a better effort of it, coming off the back of obviously 4 straight wins. But yeah, Kelly some really good goals. Especially the Fraser Murray free kick's an absolute beauty. Came close at Celtic Park in the Scottish Cup when he hit the bar, but this one's nowhere near the bar. It's in the bottom corner, but it's an absolute brilliant free kick. And Fisher can't get anywhere near to it. The other goals were pretty well worked as well. The Liam Polworth sort of dink, and then Bobby Wales getting on the score sheet. I think we are big fans of Bobby Wales on this podcast. And he's finally sort of got his run of games, and he's repaying Derek McInnes. So 2 wins on the bounce for Kelly. For St Johnstone, 6 points at the bottom. It's still manageable, but it's going to be difficult. But their sort of new recruits have benefited them massively since January. And I think they'll be in it till the end. It's just whether they can sort of claw back that gap to whoever it is that's going to be in that 11th place at the time.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's taken them a while to get going under Simo Valakari, and they did put that run together. But the question is whether they're going to be able to pick up enough results in the rest of the season to get out of that sort of automatic relegation zone. So, but St
Yeah,
Johnson, yeah.
I was just going to say,
Oh,
oh,
sorry.
there you go.
I was just going to say I've got a weird feeling though that they might do it because they always seem like they're going to go down and they just scrape past every single year.
Yeah, I think I can't think, even though St Johnstone are 6 points to the bottom, with how they've been playing recently. I know this game they played pretty poorly, as Laurie said. Kelly dominated the first half at least. Second half was a wee bit more of a level playing field, but even still. But yeah, I think St Johnstone, I feel like they're not like that bad to the point that they're going to just go out with a whimper, not even sort of challenge the other teams. And between the other teams, I can't sort of pick out a worse team at the moment. Because they're all sort of they go through spells of being terrible, and then they go through spells of being pretty decent.
Well, there's
I mean,
one
you can
team
say,
in there that you really hate, so uh,
oh yeah, oh yeah, is that Motherwell?
yeah,
Yeah, Motherwell are one of those teams that are on a bad run at the moment, as are Dundee.
they're
But
gonna
they
they're,
started,
they're
they,
they're
they
gonna
started
regret getting rid of Kettlewell.
yeah. We'll get on to Motherwell's new manager.
Do you want
When
to
we
talk
get
about
on.
them now?
Yeah, I was just going to say I was just going to give my last point. What was I going to say about Kelly? Oh, I can't even remember. Oh yeah, we were talking about Kelly. Last week it might have even been about Kelly being maybe a threatened to go down, and then on by it Saturday night they're just inside the top six. It's just
Yeah,
crazy. They obviously drop out eventually after Sunday's results, but um, Derek McInnes will be hoping that he's got them moving in the right direction now.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Right, on to Motherwell. They have made a new managerial appointment, Michael Wimmer. You know, I haven't really looked into him too much. I'll just see what they've got here on their official uh, article about him. 44-year-old German will begin when his working permit has been issued. Wimmer brings with him Amit Koch as his assistant manager. The pair have worked closely since 2013 at Nuremberg and Austria Vienna. So, yeah, it seems like he's got experience with him and his assistant. Obviously, Stuart Kettlewell departed after personal abuse from his family, no, against his family from Motherwell fans. And they lost 3-0, running Hill getting 2 goals, and Conor Randall. Is it Conor Randall? Did I get that?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Conor Randall getting the third. But yeah, Ethan, I'll just let you take the floor first of all here because you had a little bit of a beef with Motherwell fans recently, haven't you?
yeah. Motherwell fans weren't happy with what I said. I said on X or Twitter that they might have regret what they wished for with Kettlewell. Because my opinion, even though they were on a terrible run under Kettlewell, I think he earned his sort of chance to sort of get them out the rut. But Motherwell, a lot of Motherwell fans didn't agree with me. But I think some do. But obviously that's irrelevant now because he chose to leave under that abuse that his family got, as you mentioned. But now they've got a sort of exciting manager who's a little bit of an unknown, not known to most people in Scotland, I would imagine.
Yeah, you told me an interesting stat as well about Motherwell appointing foreign managers as well.
Yeah, first a foreign manager in nearly 25 years. So yeah, that's interesting. And that shows maybe that sort of took inspiration from Aberdeen with Jimmy Tilleen and possibly even St Johnstone with Simo Valakari, even though that experiment is yet we're yet to see whether that's going to play out positively for them. But I've seen on X, anyone who's on active on Twitter, I'll maybe see that or know John Walker. He's a sort of analyst, and he's sort of looked at Wimmer's time, at his kind of coaching jobs. He was at Stuttgart as the assistant, and then he took a brief spell in charge there, which was quite a successful spell. It was only for 8 matches, but he won 4 of them, which is quite decent and helped them avoid relegation that season. Obviously, Stuttgart now were in the Champions League this season, so it shows the sort of progression they've made in a few
Yeah, I'm just looking at a
seasons.
post and some of the players that you helped develop.
Yeah,
Omar Marmoush, obviously at Man City now. Konstantinos Mavropanos at West Ham, and Nico Gonzalez, who's at Juventus. And yeah, that's not a
yeah,
bad wee record.
yeah, definitely. And then he obviously went and done his sort of his own coaching journey at Austria, Vienna or Austria Wien, where he spent just over a year there. It was sort of mixed bag. He was sort of trying to save a poor season from before, and then he got to start his own season, which didn't go too well, and then he lost his job. But that's obviously a good level, a similar level to this league. You could maybe argue. But yeah, it'll be an interesting appointment and interesting to see what he does this with this crop of players that Kettlewell wasn't getting the best tune out of, evidently.
So yeah, the actual game, a heavy defeat for Motherwell and a really good win for Ross County.
Yeah, probably Motherwell's worst, one of the worst of the season. Losing at 3-0 at home to Ross County is not something that would even been imaginable before Ross County's little away run around the festive period. But a great win for Ross County. The 2 goals from Ronan Hale, absolutely awful defending from Motherwell, especially the second one, how he's just allowed to run right through the defence with no one near him. And then he finishes off well, to be fair. And then Connor Randall, the captain, finishes off Motherwell in the dying minutes with a great strike from the edge of the box. And Ross County, they went through a little bit of a difficult patch. No wins in 4. Obviously, they did play Hibs, Rangers, and Celtic in that. But the loss to Livy in the Cup was obviously very disappointing. But Ross County move away from St Johnstone at the bottom, 8 points clear for Ross County, which is brilliant for them. And only 2 points outside the top 6, although 6th place to 10th place is split by 2 points, and 6th place to 11th place is split by 4 points. So yeah, it's going to be really tight until the end, I think, with the teams. And if St Johnstone can string another run together, they might bring themselves into the conversation of that, because it's just so tight in that area, and it makes for a really entertaining reading, I think. I know sort of Celtic and Rangers are obviously going to be at the top and quite far away from everyone else, but it makes for entertaining from watching the games as a sort of neutral perspective. You talk about leagues like the English Championship as being known and being praised for being so sort of unpredictable, and I feel like the Scottish Premiership's a bit like that. Maybe not of the same quality. But yeah, at least if the brand of football is good, then at least we can try and attract better viewership and better financial implications to our league. Although, as we'll get on to, one of our Sunday TV games was quite disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But I'd agree with most of what you said there. I don't really think there's a lot else to say on the game. So do you want to just move on to the first game on
Yeah.
Sunday?
Yeah.
Um, Hearts 1, Rangers 3. Jamie McCart with an absolutely brilliant brace to give Rangers the victory. Man of the match performance from him.
Yeah, a bit of a nightmare from Jamie McCart. The first goal, I think he can't do anything about it. I think there's literally nothing he can do about it. Craig Gordon palms it into his leg. Um, I think I'm trying to kind of find a way that I can sort of say that Hearts should have done better with it, but it's just an awkward one. Craig Gordon, he's got to kind of go for the ball because he can't let it run across his 6 yard box like that. But then again, he palms it right in off his defender. And we maybe jinxed Jamie McCart because me and Laurie were certainly singing his praises last week, or maybe even the week before, for his sort of impact he's made since signing in January. But afternoon to forget for him, and an afternoon to forget for Hearts probably in general.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, they equalise, and you think, oh, they're coming back into it. They had 2.91 XG. You said that's the highest recorded XG this season against Rangers that isn't Celtic.
No, since the start's been recorded, that
Oh
isn't
my God.
Celtic.
Wow.
I think that was 2016. That goes back to. Oh no, since Rangers were back in the top flight, I think it might even be. So that sort of shows the extent of how many chances Hearts actually had. Elton Kabangu could have had a hat trick, but they just weren't clinical at all. And Rangers were, and Jamie McCart was in the wrong goal. But yeah, I think Hearts can consider themselves unlucky. But at the end of the day, when you're playing against Rangers and playing against Celtic, you need to take your chances when they come your way, and they didn't. Obviously, Steinwender did with this header from the corner, which you think maybe Hearts have got what they deserve. They've got the goal, and now they're going to push on and get the win, which wouldn't have been against the run of play. But then a bit of deja vu on the hour mark when Czerny scored.
Deja vu.
Yeah, deja vu. I don't know. I just couldn't stop thinking of the comparison between that goal that Czerny scored and the one he
All
scored at
right.
Dundee
And
and
Ciala nearly
Ciala.
gives away a penalty. Uh,
Yeah,
then Rangers go up
crazy.
the other end and score. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Hearts
um,
were a bit hard done by. I think it probably is a penalty. It was a two-hand shove in the back. Uh,
yeah.
but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about it. I don't know. I think the word that I'd use, which I mean, it might be a bit overused, but is consistency. I think compared to you compare that to the one that Rangers were given against Queens Park last week, it's a lot more cynical. It's a lot more clear, this one. So if you're given that one last week, then I think you've got to give this one. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I would give either of them as penalties. But yeah, Hearts, unfortunate. On another day, they get the penalty and they go 2-1 up. So that's how
I think they
kind of
probably
close
win the
the
game.
game. Yeah, possibly.
And then the third goal, nice ball over the top. Dessers wrestling with McCart. McCart gets the better of Dessers and slots it away beautifully past Craig Gordon.
Yeah, I think this one. I think McCart's maybe a wee bit more to blame with this one. I can't really defend him on this front. Yeah, he's got to make a challenge, but at the same time, he's got to do a bit better. I think. Although Dessers does well to sort of get in that position and put him under pressure. But no matter how unpretty it was, and possibly how maybe undeserved it was based off the balance of the game, it's a massive win for Rangers to sort of get over that hump. of away games. Obviously, they got that win against Dundee United, which was an impressive win with a better performance to go with it. But I think the stat you told me earlier was it's the first time Rangers have strung two away Scottish Premiership wins together this season, um, which is a ridiculous stat to sort of be talking about with Rangers in February. But it shows how bad the away form's been this season. So yeah, Rangers, they're getting wins. The performance maybe not there. And I think that's going to be used against Clement because we know what he came out with after the Queen's Park game about how many shots they had and whatever. He definitely wouldn't be looking at the stats for this game because they don't make pretty reading. But 3 points is 3 points, especially when you go to a place like Tynecastle. Hearts starting to turn their fortunes as well under Neil Critchley. So yeah, a good win for Rangers. Disappointing, and it'll feel like a missed opportunity for Hearts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, Rangers, I think at this point in the season with the cup gone, and they should just focus on staying as close to Celtic as they can. Obviously, they've still got Europe as well, but yeah, it's not. It's there's not a lot to look forward to as a Rangers fan. So all you can really expect is just the win. Um, at the win at the weekend. So which I think is the least they should expect. And
Yep.
based on what they've had to go through this season as well. And I'm not just talking about myself here. Like it's the fans show up, and some of the stuff's been dreadful, especially last week. So yeah, just good to get the win under the belt and move on. Right on to the most exciting game of the weekend. St Mirren nil, Hibs nil. Yeah, red card. What do you
Uh, I
bit
don't
harsh?
think so. I think it's a bit harsh. Alassana Mane, I think the first yellow, I think right as he comes off the bench, fair enough. I think the second yellow is very harsh. It reminds me a lot of Jeff Day against Dinamo Kiev in the Champions League qualifiers. Was that a straight red card, that one? It was, wasn't it? Or was that a
Uh,
second
I think
yellow?
it might be in a second yellow.
Yeah. Well, it kind of fits with this one because I don't really understand. He's challenging for the ball. Of course, there's going to be arms up. I really don't think. I think it's very harsh to send him off, but ultimately, it didn't really have much of an impact on the game. With 6 minutes left, both teams never really looked like scoring that much. Hibs got a penalty, a bit of a comical one. It hit Killian Phillips' face. And the referee pointed to the spot. Obviously, they checked it on VR and found that it didn't hit his hand. So that's what VR's for anyone that maybe thinks that VR should go or better without it. That's the kind of stuff that can happen and has happened before with sort of ridiculous decisions. But they got it right in the end, and a point was probably fair for both teams because they never really created enough to deserve a win. For Hibs, it keeps their sort of unbeaten run going. 12 unbeaten. The last time they lost was against Celtic, and who they've got next is Celtic. And Hibs still 4 points off a third place. Obviously, Aberdeen and Dundee United flipping spots, but I think Hibs are the sort of team with that momentum. If they can put a wee bit more into their performances, a wee bit more oomph into their performances, they can get those points on the board and contend for third. And for St Mirren, somehow they're into sixth because Motherwell drop out with that 3-0 loss, and the goal difference is poor, which means St Mirren above them on goal difference, and then they're above Kilmarnock by 1 goal difference. So yeah, it's going to be really tight for that sixth place, especially and fifth. But I can sort of see Aberdeen, Dundee United, and Hibs being the favourites for those positions at the moment. But I think sixth still very much in contention for anyone who can
Yeah, up
sort
for
of pull away.
grabs.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think did I say this already? But I feel like this might be a jinx. This game, the sort of the Sunday game on the telly, it always seems like it's just the worst game. The Premier Sports games always seem really, really poor.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but maybe they should hide the TV cameras and not say that they're
Yeah,
recording it on the telly, and then maybe the players will turn up. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's
I
not
can't
not
really
not.
think of a good Premier Sports game this season. But
not
yeah,
yeah.
I don't really have much else to add to that. I know I've said that a lot today, but I don't think it's been a particularly great weekend for the football. There hasn't been very
It's been
many.
okay. It's been okay, but there's not really been much
There's
sort
not been
of.
like good games. I'd say the Celtic
No.
game maybe had the best kind of quality of goals. Uh,
Yeah. Well,
but
good goals across the games, but
yeah,
as
yeah.
you
But
said, most of the games sort of.
Fraser Murray obviously with a nice free kick
Yeah.
as well. But
Not really the best quality. You
no,
would be fair to say this weekend. But there was a big game in the championship.
yeah. Before we finish up, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Scottish Championship. It's starting to heat up a little bit. So Queens Park 1, Hamilton Accies 2, Monday Accies getting Rangers revenge. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, big win for Hamilton Accies though, getting themselves, away from those relegation playoff spots. But no, we're talking about Falkirk to Ayr United to Livingston failing to capitalise on that. They also drew. They drew 0-0. Um, and yeah, Scotty Arfield back in the goals, 4 goals in his first 2 games for Falkirk. So I'd say that's a dream return. And as me and Ethan learned, a really nice story why he wears the number 37 shirt. And it was actually retired at Falkirk and they brought it out. This is terrible. I forgot the guy's name, but a teammate of Scotty Arfield passed away when they were coming up through Falkirk together. Falkirk retired the shirt on his return to Falkirk. Scott Arfield phoned the guy's family, said, "Can I wear it?" They said, "You can." And it was actually the day before his 37th birthday, what would have been his 37th birthday. So some things are meant to be. And he's enjoying his return to Falkirk. But yeah, 2 each draw with Ayr United. That leaves the table as it stands. Livingston 4 points off the top. Falkirk at the top with 50, and Ayr United in second on 48. It's all very tight in there. And the championship looks like it could be really exciting towards the very end because Falkirk were pulling away at the start. Ayr had a spell, but it's all kind of come together and they're really tight.
Yeah, I think we on the podcast said that we thought Falkirk would run away. Well, I certainly did. I remember saying I thought Falkirk would run away with the championship, especially after they played Celtic in the Premier Sports Cup and they gave Celtic a real game for 80 minutes. And well, we actually seen Falkirk in the flesh against East Kilbride in the Scottish Cup. They weren't that impressive, but they got the job done in the end. Falkirk eventually went out in the next round to Raith Rovers, I think it was. But Ayr United and Livingston have strung together some great runs of form. They're on a sort of great run. At least Livingston were. That sort of draw against Dunfermline sort of comes out of nowhere for them, but they're still in it. David Martindale's doing a great job because I didn't think Livingston would be up there competing. I thought they would be towards the bottom end. You always hear about Livingston having to cut their budgets and having to save money here, save money there, and it just shows how much of a sort of cost efficient job Davy Martindale's doing. Doing sort of went into full Scottish mode there because I said Davy. David Martindale's doing at Livingston, and yeah, you wouldn't sort of go against them to sneak a way up, maybe via the playoffs. But yeah, it's really entertaining, the championship. And towards the sort of the bottom half, Airdrie obviously way at the bottom, 10 points. I think they're too far gone to make a comeback. And then you've got sort of Raith Rovers, Queens Park, Green at Morton in the midst of trying to chase Partick Thistle for that last playoff spot. And I caught on Super Scoreboard the other day that a Partick Thistle fan was very unhappy with how things are going under Chris Doolan, and he was calling for his head and wanted Stuart Kettlewell in to take the Partick Thistle job, which I think would be a great appointment for Partick Thistle, but that's not saying that Chris Doolan should go. He's obviously got them in a decent position so far this season. They're probably going to have to settle for that playoff spot. But yeah, and then they've got your sort of team you've got a little thing for, Hamilton, going neck and neck like they have been with Dunfermline for most of the season to avoid that playoff spot. Hamilton doing not the best in the league, but certainly better than my local team, Dumbarton. The less said on that, the better. But yeah, the Championship's sort of looking really entertaining this season, and hopefully we get a good league finish, and hopefully we get an entertaining playoff as well, between whoever does advance for the playoffs and whoever drops down from the
Thing is,
Premiership.
as well, I feel like with that sort of three-way race, whoever does finish top, good. But I feel like whoever wins in those playoffs has a chance of taking down whoever finishes 11th in the Premiership. Uh,
Yeah,
I feel like they have a good chance, and I think we've seen this season the Championship sides going up against them Premiership sides. Uh, it's been sort of tighter than ever. Maybe not with Celtic against the Wraith Rovers, but
yeah, but yeah, definitely. Livingston obviously beat Ross County the other week there, and I think I might have said as well. I might have jumped the gun too early on the Championship this season. I think I said whoever finishes in 11th will have too much for whoever comes up through the promotion playoff. But that might not be the case. You never know in a two-legged tie and these sort of games. Although last season Ross County blew away. It was escaping me who it was. Was it Raith last season? I think it was. It was Raith Rovers, wasn't it? I
yeah,
think that played Ross County. Um, so yeah, but yeah, the championship's been really refreshing that it hasn't just been a one-horse race, much like the Premiership. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it finishes.
definitely, definitely. Yeah, I'm really am liking the Championship this season. Just an interesting thing. Scott Arfield's already Falkirk's joint third top goal scorer um, for the season, and he's only 2 goals off the top scorer. So
So who's why have they not been scoring? Who's not been stepping up for Falkirk?
I think
I
I
know they've got
think a lot of them have just been scoring because if you look at
yeah
the scorers list, you've got Brad Spencer on 6 and Calvin Miller on 5. Um, then you've got Ethan Ross, Liam Henderson, Scott Arfield all on 4. Ross McAlver, McAlver, I don't know. Ross McAlver.
McIver, I think it is.
Oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I thought that was an L. Uh, then Callum Morrison, Ross McIver, Callum Morrison on 3. Aidan,
Morrison's obviously away now
yeah,
as
he's
well.
away now. Aidan Nesbitt's got 2, Dylan Tate's got 2, Gary Oliver's got 2, Keelan Adams with 2, Sean Mackey with 2, and Leon McCann with 1. So they've kind of been chipping in the getter for the goals this season. Um,
Yeah,
so
not like Ayr. They've got the front two are Jay Henderson, 7 goals, 7 assists, and then they've
George
got
Oakley,
obviously
12 goals.
George Oakley, who's the top scorer in the league, with 12. So
Anton Dowds
yeah,
has 3 goals, sorry, 5 goals as well. Um, I'm interested to see who's been doing the business for Levy. Robbie Muirhead with 6, Stevie May with 5, Scott Pittman with 4, and then it drops down to 2 goals. There's a few. Teddy Yenge, uh, who else? Lewis Smith. So yeah, it's Robbie Fraser's got a wee goal. Uh, so aye, although he's made 7 appearances, only scoring once. But yeah, it is tight and it is entertaining, and I think it is. It was only right we just gave the championship a little bit of airtime because if you're looking at for competitiveness and closer games, and I'd say it's a better league to watch.
yeah, definitely. We spoke about the sort of close nature of a lot of the Premiership, but I think in the Championship you can get that in almost any game, any given time. Livingston, no one's seen them sort of turning up and dropping points against Dunfermline. But it happened, and a missed chance for Martindale. But yeah, I think all three of those teams will be going at it until the very end.
Definitely. Right. That is that for this episode of the Dugout. It's it's been a good one. I haven't totally been on my game today. I don't feel like, but hey, Ethan's been carrying me through it.
No,
Thank
you've been fine. You've been fine.
thank you to everyone for watching and listening. Go check out our Twitter at the Dugout 2024. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.